Alright, today we're going to be tearing into a 2000 Honda 1100. This is a VT, so it's a V-twin motor. We've got the front cylinder head here. We've got the back cylinder head here. We've done several videos on this model already, so check those out on our channel. But right on this video, we're going to go ahead and just dismantle this motor, go through every detail, all the way down, flywheel, stator, the clutches. We're going to tear this down into the crankcase and go through the transmission, look at common problems, what typically goes wrong, and what holds together well. So first thing you're going to want to do is grab an Allen wrench. There are several different ways you can do that. We've got an Allen socket here, and then you've got a style like this here, that just an L Allen that if they're really tight, I like to get a hold of those. Problem is with these is a lot of times these get rounded off and can round off the heads. That's true of any Allen, but it seems like with the L wrench, you've got a little bit better grip on it. I take a hammer and a lot of times we'll just tap on it a little bit just to get it all the way in there. Sometimes dirt and debris will hold those out. So a lot of Allen bolts. We've already pulled the front left hand cover off here, and these we've already loosened up the front right hand here. These are just chrome covers. Check my other video. We've done a couple other videos on the cylinder head itself, which is why we've already halfway dismantled that one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these covers off here, and I like to mark these if I haven't already. That way just quicker going back together. And this, what I would call the rear right hand, and I'm just going to mark that with an RR. I keep all these bolts together as well. They are kind of a specialty bolt, just a little bit harder to get. The other thing, pull these rubber caps off, because if you don't, they're just kind of rubber. Hold these away from the motor to keep them from rattling. If you don't pull those off now, they'll for sure fall off at some point, and you will end up searching all over. Otherwise, these covers are just going to rattle. So again, 2 Allens on this side. Same thing. Keep the bolts together. That is the rear left hand. Going to go ahead and right on that. Pull these rubber caps off here, and keep these all together again. So cylinder head. We've got handful of nuts here that need pulled off, and then we've got bolts that run all the way through this cylinder head. So we'll go ahead and do that this time. Again, we've already loosened up these. These are 14 millimeter bolts. And if you see some here that look like caps, they are. You don't have to pull those to remove this head cover. So keep that in mind. And once you get it loosened up there, you can just a lot of times just walk it off just like that. We've had a couple parts fall out. I want to show you those in particular. They tend to fall out like that when you just pull that head off. So they've got these here, and then you've got a shim underneath. So you want to make sure you keep track of those and where those go. There's 3 on the rear, or excuse me, on the front. Then we'll look at the rear when we get there. What I like to do at this point is pull our, there's a cap here. It's a little hard to see. It's a 17 millimeter. What that allows us to do is be able to turn that motor over. Cap is off there. It's a chrome cover there. Again, 17 millimeter to pull that, and then take a 17 millimeter socket there, and you can turn this motor over. Turn it clockwise, and there's an arrow on here. This is also how you find top dead center. Check our videos. We've done a video on finding top dead center on this model. I'm going to go ahead and pull this side cover off here. Again, more Allen bolts with fins, and these are kind of back in there a little ways, so just be careful you're not breaking these fins off. And then there's a bolt up top there. That allows us to open this, get underneath here to our spark plug a little bit better, although we could have done that with that cover on there. So I'm going to go ahead now and pull this cam sprocket here, 10 millimeter up top. And then the reason why we put that wrench on there is so we can turn this. All right, now we can remove this bolt as well. Now we're able just to pry that sprocket off of there. We're able to get that camshaft off of there now. And you find the groove that needs to go in. This chain here, tensioner is here. And so you got to use a wrench to get in there. This will help us be able to pull that cam chain and that cam shaft off. Then we have one up at the top as well. This will hold that cam chain. You can see there when I'm turning that guide, it's attached to that guide there. And they'll allow all kinds of free play when we have that removed. So able just to pull that up then, and there's your cam chain tensioner there. So like I said, you have two bolts, one right in the side of the cylinder head, one right in the side of the cylinder. Those are attached to here, and that's going to allow us to move that sprocket around there, get that chain off of there, get that camshaft out of there. So better way of doing that would be to pull those tensioner bolts before you go ahead and remove that cam chain sprocket. Just makes it a little more simple doing it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my cam chain sprocket bolts back on there. Just keep those together. All right, to remove this spark plug housing here, I got a pair of pliers that are reverse, and just went ahead and pulled those together. Just started twisting that just unscrewed out of there, just threaded in there. So not very tight, but it is sealed up with an O-ring. And as soon as we do that, that cam chain is gonna drop. Well, I hit that spark plug, I guess, and then drop. So keep that in mind if you're pulling that. That when you do pull that spark plug or that chain will just drop down. Got a cover on the other side there, same thing, Allen bolts. All right, got that cover pulled off of there. Underneath of there, we got two 10mm bolts. 10mm bolts right here on the side cover here, just to on the side of this head. And we should be loose and ready to come up there. All right, cylinder head is off there. So that's what it looks like there. Inspect that really well, make sure there's no issues there. We've got our head gasket here, pretty simple. Gasket, we're gonna pull our other guide out there. Our cylinder, let's see, we're gonna pull this pin out here. And then we can flip this around. Right in the middle of those cylinders is a coolant line. Coolant can run back and forth there. We're gonna pull both of those clips off there. All right, we're able just to push on that tube there a little bit more, pushed it in farther. So that's allowed us to slip that cylinder off. We'll inspect that, the cylinder walls really well. Go ahead and inspect that piston. Piston appears to be in really good condition, but we'll go ahead and double check that. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that piston now at this point. I'll grab a pick here, get in behind there. Pull that circlip. I kind of keep my thumb over top of that so that it doesn't go flying away, it doesn't drop down in that motor. If all we're doing is replacing top end, you want to make really sure that that clip doesn't fall down into that bottom end. Putting it back together then, I like to just take that circlip and just push it back into the place there. And now we've got the front cylinder completely off. So crankshaft is down here. You can feel there's no free play in there. Just looks really, really good. Okay, we've got our back cylinder here. We've got our front cylinder and head completely off. We're gonna pull our back cylinder cover here. I've loosened up the head bolts here, some nuts that we've needed to loosen up there to pull this off, just to kind of speed things up. And just lift up on here. You've got a waterway here, a water passage for your coolant, and sometimes that'll hold you up. That's a sealed with an O-ring there. And then we've got our head cover off here. And there's your rockers down in there. Pull these here. Typically these just fall out anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull those. And then those will have shims, as you can see there, that will come out. Some of them will come out with those, some of them won't, so just be careful and watch for that. Next thing you're gonna do, two 10mm bolts going into the back of the cylinder head here and one in the cylinder. And that holds the cam chain guide and its tensioner as well. So go ahead and pull those there, and that'll loosen this up. You're able just to pull that out just like that there. And that is for the cam chain. And then your other side there will come out when we pull that head and that cylinder off. These, there's, I believe, 4 Allens on the right side. The fin, the side cover here. We've loosened several of these up already just to speed things up, but we can go ahead and remove those now. They're kind of down in there. Sometimes if your socket isn't long enough, they're a little bit of a challenge to get to. So go ahead and pull that side off. We'll go to the other side. Pull that one off there. Yeah, let's pull that sprocket off there. 10mm bolts on the side here. 2 of them. So pull one off, then what we got to do is turn this motor over. Be careful, that other cam chain is down in there. You don't want to use force on this one. It'll turn a little ways, and then at some point that cam chain will bind in that bottom end there. Could potentially break a piece of that case off if you're turning that without holding that cam chain up. So just be careful of that. We just had to turn it a little ways, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But if it would have stopped, you wouldn't want to force it. So got that sprocket off of there, so that gives us a little more room to lift that camshaft out of there. And that camshaft is there. Inspect the lobes really well before going back together. Go ahead and take this sprocket off here. We're just going to let that drop. It actually drops down onto that spark plug housing there. Then you can take these pliers again. These come in handy a couple different times on this machine. So, oops. And then once you pull this out, your cam chain will catch on that spark plug. You can push it on past that spark plug, let it drop down in there, because we are going all the way down into that bottom end. So if you weren't going that far down, definitely keep that cam chain held up there. Got 2 10mm bolts that would be on the left-hand side here, right near the spark plug. And now that head's ready to come off. Sometimes, which is the case this time, that cylinder will come with it. Sometimes that cylinder will stop as you lift up. If you want them separate, just be really careful again where you force it. You don't want to break a fin off, and that is very easy to do. So just kind of break that free from that gasket will seal it up really well. Be careful pulling this off. It's got oil up in there, and if you pull this off too quick, it'll dump oil all over the place. All right, we've got the cylinder head off there. Inspect valves really well. Inspect the cam guide areas there. We've got your other guide here. Set that aside, and then we're able just to pull that off. Slides right off of there. Again, inspect those walls really well. These gaskets you never want to reuse, so we'll go ahead and throw these away. This is what they consider your base gasket here. and we'll take a pick and pull that piston off of there. Again, keeping your finger over top of there so it doesn't go flying across the room. And take and push that pin out just like that, and then we'll stick that in with that piston there.